let's say it's a $150,000 home versus a $400,000 home. Who are we to say that they shouldn't have their best foot put forward as well when having
Yep.
their house listed? And so while you're doing it for that particular listing, you're attracting future clients as well and showing them what you're going to do when you get the opportunity to list their home.
Well, hello there, besties. Welcome to, I don't even know what episode this is. Just read it on thing and track with me. But listen, that's how we are. Today, I am super duper pumped. We're talking to one of my real life business besties, Megan Williamson. Megan and I are both a part of a high level mastermind. That's where we met initially. And her infectious laugh, like just the way she thought about business, was so inviting to me. And guess what? She is a real estate photographer. And I'm like, okay, you have to be on the podcast so we can talk about photography, how it tells a story, how it is all a part of your branding. Welcome, Megan, to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Okay, first, before we even get into it, I do not want to forget, tell the besties exactly the name of your business and where you are located.
Okay, so it's Meg Williamson Photography, and I'm located in South Bend, Indiana. So I service Southern Michigan and Northern Indiana. And if you want to find me online, it's megwilliamsonphotography.com.
I love it. I love it. And we'll have all your links, all of your stuff in the description box. So besties, don't worry about writing all that down. You can just scroll down and get everything. So do you go by Meg or Megan? Like, what do you like most?
So I go by Megan, but somebody already had that web address. So,
Okay.
so, so you can call me Megan, but if you call me Meg, that's fine too, because it is what it is.
Okay, because I thought as you were talking, I'm like, wait, am I supposed to be calling her Meg? I've been calling her Megan all this time.
No, you're good.
Now, I understand that at one point somebody did had the web address for Real Estate Bestie. So we were realestateBestiePodcast.com, but then one day we checked and it was available. So keep checking, Megan.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah, keep checking, keep checking. Okay, so talk to us. How did you get into real estate photography?
You know, I was in the wedding industry for about 18 years as a photographer, and I graduated from college with a degree in marketing, but I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. We homeschool our kids. And in order to still do my love of photography, weddings worked really well because I had two young children. I could shoot on the weekends with my best friend, and I was still home with my kids during the week. So that's kind of how that happened. And then as time went on and my kids got a little bit older, I started to get a little burnt out on weddings, which is pretty typical.
Mhm.
And started thinking like, what route do I want to go with my photography business? And I had the opportunity to shoot a couple of homes and was like, you know what? I kind of enjoy doing this. And I can't even put my finger at the time, like what it was that I loved. But I think it was just like the God's prompting on my life of like, this is the direction I'm taking you. And so we moved from Illinois to Indiana. And right before 2020 hit, I was in like just a small business group that I had been invited to. And the guy who headed up was a realtor. And we had talked a little bit about how I was interested in getting in that. 2020 happened. Their photographer quit. He called me and he asked me. And 4.5 years later, I have a very booming real estate and architectural photography business.
No, I love it. I love it. And let me tell you, I've always been of the mindset that I need to have professional photography for my listings, right? But one time I had a lease listing and I shared with it, like when I do a lease listing, I give the clients the choice, like you pay for the photography. I found a cheaper guy, just for the lease or whatever. And she's like, no, I really think you can just take the pictures. Cause I'm like, oh, I have a camera, I have a Canon or whatever. Those pictures were because you think it's just about having a decent camera or you think anybody can take the pictures. Those pictures were so trash. Like I was in every mirror shot. I told her, I was like, at this point, I'm just going to pay for the pictures because this is an art and I am no artist. So would you agree that it's a lot more to it than people would think that it is?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I went from wedding photography to real estate photography, it was a huge learning curve. It was not like I always say there was a brokerage that took a chance on me. They gave me the opportunity. They let me work through trying to like figure out how real estate photography worked. And then I've continued to grow as the years go on. but like it's totally different. It's a completely different ball game. So yes,
Yeah.
just because you have a camera. I mean, that's with most photography, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, and I would think too, like I know that because you are friends and you know my actual branding photographer, and I'm like, yeah, of course, when he takes my pictures, they look good. But sometimes we think that because the house is a still image that we can do it. Friend, besties, y'all cannot do it. You need to hire somebody. So tell me, what should we look for though? Because all photographers are not created equal. What should we be looking for in the finished product, right? When we are showcasing our listings, what would you give as a suggestion?
Well, my first suggestion would be that it's super common to get online and ask, does anyone have someone who can photograph this house for me? And again, I was given a chance. It was something I was interested in. I had a learning curve. But what I see over and over again are family photographers, senior photographer, all of those jumping in and be like, I can do it. And it's not that they can't do it, but you need some proof that they can do it and that they have the
Mm,
equipment to do it. But the other thing that you're looking for is through their work that they're representing houses the way you want your houses to be represented. And I know we talked about a little bit about this before, but like my whole premise behind my business is authenticity. I want all the images that I produce to be authentic to the home. Like I don't want realtors to be bringing in clients and their first comment is this doesn't even look like the house.
yeah, that we're catfished.
Yes, exactly,
Yep.
exactly. And I mean, my husband is a realtor, so I see both sides of things all the time. And he was just in a house the other day, and I was like, I knew a little bit of backstory on the house, and I had never been in it. And I was like, but the pictures look really good, but it doesn't really line up with the story. And so I was like, I'm really interested to hear your feedback on that house after you see it. And he's like, yeah, it was not. The pictures were definitely doctored. So you have to like what you see. If they're not producing, if that photographer is not producing what you like or what you're seeing in these homes, then they're probably not going to produce it for you either. It's kind of
Hmm.
like branding photography. I mean, I really incorporate it all as branding photography, but like you use Willie for your branding and you like what he produces. You didn't expect him to produce it because that's what you wanted him to. You knew that is his work and it
Yep.
showed.
Yep. And Willie, in his defense, like as you were saying, okay, you look for a photographer. When it was first time for me to start looking for a photographer for my listings, I asked him, and Willie, shout out to Willie and Kim. If you have any picture that you have seen and I look cute, is 9 times out of 10, Willie has taken it. Other than that, it's probably me and my janky iPhone. But when I first started getting busier years ago, I'm talking like 2018, 2019, I asked him if he would do some of my real estate photography, and he flat out told me no. And I was like, I just don't understand. It's the same thing. And no, it is not. It's not the same thing. Now let's even talk about the person who has not figured out the importance of investing in professional photography, right?
Mhm.
From a photographer standpoint, what do you think about that in terms of the disservice they may be doing to themselves and their clients?
Right. So, I mean, I mentioned before that I have a degree in marketing, and I mean, it's not that I put a lot of emphasis on that because I graduated college in 2024 in marketing or 2024 in 2004, and marketing is completely different now than it was then. However, I've loved what makes people tick and how to sell to people and all of that. And my whole premise between having professional photographers for a listing and not has to do with how do you want to be perceived to your future client. Like
Hmm.
there's so much more to it than just listing that particular home. Like I coach on branding, business branding and building a business and stuff like that. And like if someone is researching, if they're not in the area or they're just doing general research on who to hire as a realtor and they see someone who's gone in and taken crooked pictures or low light pictures or toilet lids open, all the things that make me crazy when I see a picture. And then they see a realtor who has professional pictures and video and shows up online and helps in the community. Like it's all part of your branding.
Yep.
And I am a firm believer that it needs to be across the board for all of your listings, that you don't pick and choose who gets this treatment and who doesn't, because there's so much in the real estate industry that is like fair housing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
like, just because you have, I mean, I live in Indiana, so we have a lower range of homes probably than in Texas, but like, let's say it's $150,000 home versus a $400,000 homes. Who are we to say that they shouldn't have their best foot put forward as well when having
Yep.
their house listed? And so while you're doing it for that particular listing, you're attracting future clients as well and showing them what you're going to do when you get the opportunity to list their home.
Yeah, and I agree with that because there definitely needs to be just proof of what it looks like what does it look like to work with you, and how are you going to put my home and my interests, as a priority. And I think one of the
Mhm.
worst things is that, I've looked, like, if I'm being honest, like I've looked at agents in my market and they're all pretty and they show up looking wonderful every single time, Louboutins, like the whole nine, super dope, professional pictures of themselves. And then you look at one of their listings and it's like, did they go? Did they walk and check it out and even see what was happening? Because essentially you can have a pretty package, but at the end of the day, are you going to do what is necessary to market and get the home sold? And you better
Mhm.
believe, and especially with all of the different changes that are happening in industry, you better believe that the clients or potential clients are paying attention, and you have to be able to deliver on that.
Absolutely. You have to stand out from everybody else. I don't look at the other realtors as your competition, but how are you going to shine? And I do think there's something to be said to look at other people that you look up to and how they're running their business. But there's always been marketing and advertising that you have to spend money on. Like, it
Mhm.
doesn't just come. And yes, it's easier than it used to be in terms of having social media and stuff at our fingertips, but like, it's just part of running a business. And at the end of the day, I mean, realtors do it different ways. I have some realtors who put the cost back on the seller for the pictures, and then some who pay it. I'm a strong believer the realtor should pay it. It's just part
Mhm.
of your advertising, but
Yep.
that's just how I feel in a business sense. But like, at the end of the day, if you paid for it, that's all like write-offs at the end of the year. Like, you need to have that type of stuff, and you need to show that you're going to bring your best foot forward. And then there are different things that you can do for different levels of homes. So I think professional pictures with every home is important, but then the higher end you get, then maybe you're doing video, or you're doing a social media reel, or a realtor spotlight, or all of those other things. But like, at least visually show the house in the best way you can.
Yeah, I love that. And I even think about when I go on listing appointments, right? I have had the same photographer for about 2 years now, and he has become a part of my team. So when I am on a listing appointment, I just think, like, I think about somebody who may, and I'm not saying I get every last one, but I get a lot
Mhm.
of them. And when I'm at the listing and I get to talk about, what our process is and how we're going to highlight your home, and I get to show them, hey, and speak of him by name, like, hey, this is Trey's work. These are the type of things that we do. If you have this amount of acreage, this is when we do drone photos, and this is how we're going to highlight you. And then they get to meet him, and we're already in rapport. And, I'm there or my listing coordinator's there. It heightens our value. Like, the seller understands, like, hey, they are actually taking this seriously and helping me show my home in the best light. And there's a whole team behind you in order to do that. So I agree with you 100%. Now, for everybody, you're not in their market. How do they
Right.
interview a photographer? Like, what do you think they should do if they're trying to figure out if this person's going to be the best fit?
Yeah, it's interesting because in my area, it's very much word of mouth. I mean, I have my website, but it's, one person talks to the next person type of thing. But I would definitely do your research. And, we have some what I consider more box companies, some I don't want to say Walmarts, but like where they're more across the country, whereas I'm very local. But if you're gonna go with someone, if you find someone's website, then also look for current listings that they have, because
Hmm.
you can pull out your pictures on a website, but the current listings, if you're looking at a bunch of what they've done, you're going to see like what they do on a consistent basis. But I'd also talk to other realtors that you trust. Like, I think that's super important. Do I only get picked because I take great pictures? No, I think a lot of why I get chosen is who I am as a person, how I relate to the client when I'm in the home with them, that they know that I have an attention for detail. Like, there's more to it than just the pictures that I take. It's the entire experience that you have when you hire Megan Williamson Photography. And I do have a team. I have a couple other photographers and a videographer on my team. And it's really important to me that they are trained in the same way and that they treat the client exactly how I want them, to represent my business well.
I love that you say that because it made me think of two stories, but one in particular is that I'd worked with a photographer before, and he honestly did really good work, but he was kind of a jerk. Like just being just keeping it 100. It can be in one time in particular, I had a listing. It was a beautiful, beautiful home, but they had 5 kids. So, and we needed to get the house on the market like really fast because of the house they got under contract. And you could just see the agitation and frustration on his face. And I was like, and I actually like pulled him to the side and said, "Hey, I need you to be a little bit different, right? I don't know if you had a rough night. I know that we're shifting things around to accommodate this family, but that's what we do here. We accommodate the family." And it wasn't, the house was not in crazy disarray or anything, but it was definitely one of those situations where everybody needs to show flexibility. And I have never used him since that day.
Yeah.
Seriously, because everyone we work with is a reflection of us. And, if you're kind of huffing and puffing and not really saying much and not being personable with our clients, then I care enough about the people that I serve and I care enough about my business to no longer do business with you if that's how you're going to show up for my people.
Right. And I will say that like I understand, maybe I understand it more because I'm married to a realtor, but like I understand the difference between my realtors who really prep their clients for their homes, for their pictures. And I walk in and there's a few things that need to be changed, or the rare occasion that it's a disaster. Like, I know you can't make them do anything. So
Yep.
like there's a difference in when I show up every time to the same realtor's listing and I'm there an extra half an hour to 45 minutes because things are never ready versus an occasional one
Yep.
like that. And
Yep.
so if it's every time, then it's probably going to be a conversation I have with my realtor that's like, okay, can you book me a little bit later and you show up earlier? I maybe do too much. Like, I'm definitely known for moving lots of things with clients and stuff. But that also has to do with my OCD for the pictures. And I know that the images reflect me as well. So,
Yep.
I mean, there's just so many things, but I have found so much joy in being a real estate photographer because I feel like I get to walk in a lot of times when the people are the most stressed out.
Yep. Yep.
Like, a lot of times they're like dumping on me, whether it's because just all the emotional stress, and kind of talk them through it. And the fact sometimes it's they're moving from the home they raised their kids in, or it's
Yep.
so many different things. And I love hearing people's stories about their homes. And I love when a client says, "Hey, can I have those pictures because, we raised our kids?" Absolutely. You
Yeah.
can. Yeah. So people a lot of times are like, "You take pictures of homes? That sounds so boring." I love it. I love what I
Yeah.
do.
No, I love it too. And I love that you hit on the fact that you are understanding because picture day can be stressful for the people. Like they have been working, trying to get everything together. And literally, I tell my team, I tell the besties that I coach that, what we get to do as real estate agents, we are literally helping someone open a new chapter or close an old one. And there are a lot of emotions with that and just handling them with care. But Megan, you hit on something that I want us to talk about a little bit before we wrap up our time.
Okay.
How can a realtor best prepare their clients in order to get the home listed? Because I'm be honest and say for a long time I was flying blind. I have a system, I have a process now, but from the photographer standpoint, what do you like to see realtors suggesting?
So definitely decluttering. I have a list that if an agent doesn't have one, that I'm happy to provide that they can pass on to their client. And I always say the list is like this because you know they're not going to do everything on the list. Like every once in a while, you get one of those type A personalities and they are like, I did every single thing, including fresh flowers. And you're like, oh, great. But for the most part, it's decluttering because you don't like every little thing shows up. So, I mean, if you look at behind me in my thing, like if you were in my house, you would be like, oh, it's so pretty. It's under construction, but it's so pretty. But even I see it behind me in the video and I'm like, oh, there's too much stuff behind me. It
Yeah.
just shows differently in pictures. And you want to take some of those personal touches away because it can really distract people when they're in there or when they're looking at photos. And then things like trash cans and clean, having your toilet brush next to the toilet and making sure your light bulbs are not burnt out. And if you leave your fan on 24/7, 365 days a year, that when you turn off the fan, it's not covered in dust. I can't tell you how many people are embarrassed. And I'm like, you're not the first one. But
Yeah.
we don't leave fans on in pictures because they create a blur. And it's so many things like cobwebs and blinds. It's just that extra, the toothbrushes on the counter. And what I say is that when I come in to take pictures, you want everything to be perfect. But once I leave, if you have your toothbrush in the holder and it's cleaned up on the counter, that can be there for showings. It's just for pictures. It's those extra, people know you live there, but you don't want it to show up in pictures. So it's okay to have those things that you use every day for showings. People aren't going through your house going, I can't believe you have a toothbrush on the counter. But for pictures, you want clean surfaces. I would say perfection. You want it to look like you don't live there. You
Yeah.
want to hide toys, anything, pops of color that don't go with your decorating, and really hide those personal pictures. Because I'll tell you, even when I'm in taking pictures of a home, if I see personal pictures, I'm like distracted by them. Like, who lives here? How many kids do you have?
Yeah, you're looking at everything. You're trying to figure out every single thing about the people. And I can't tell you how, unfortunately, like that could be a deterrent even for showings. I say get rid of all personal things for a myriad of reasons. But like I just even think about I had someone recently, a listing that I have right now, it wasn't quite, it was a Robert Kennedy poster, but I was like, take it down. Like we don't want anything that could be a deal breaker for
Yes.
anyone in there. No, Megan, everything that you're saying is so good. And besties, because I love you, I'm going to go ahead and share with you just a make ready listing just to get ready for photos so that you have a document just to go off of to share with your potential sellers. So head on over to rosemarylewis.com/photo ready and you will get that. So rosemarylewis.com/photo ready. So, Megan, before we get out of here, is there any piece of advice, parting advice that you want to give to realtors as it relates to marketing and showcasing their listings?
Think about if you were the one having your house listed, what would you want a realtor to do for you? Think about if you were listing your own home, would you pull out all the stops? Because if you're going to do it for yourself or you want someone else to do it for you, then you should be doing it for other people, and make sure that you're doing what's going to attract your ideal client. Like I hear all the time when I'm doing like branding workshops and stuff like that, I want the $1 million listings and da 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 da. If you're not pulling out all the stops for the current listings that you have in marketing, you're not going to sell to those $1 million listings just because you have nice branding photos of yourself. Like it has
You
to
better
be,
preach.
yeah. So, I mean, it's just, it's to me, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but to me, it's basic business sense in marketing to what you want to attract.
No, I love it. You have to become who you're becoming. And if you, I love that. Like everyone wants to be a luxury agent, but you're right. It's a lot harder to stroke a check for video and photography for $1 million listing than it is for a 300,000. So get
Yeah.
into the habit of pouring into your business, of understanding that this is a cost of doing business. It's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your brand, and you will do so much better in business.
Yeah, definitely. And you're gonna see it. Yeah, you're gonna see the results of the money you're spending.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Meg.
You're welcome, Rosemary.
Thank you for being here. Let the besties know again, because we do have besties from all over. If they are in your area and they're like, I need her, remind them where they can go, and we'll put it in the description box again.
Okay, so it's a little tricky because I'm in South Bend, Indiana, but I live on the Michigan line. So I service Southern Michigan, Lake Michigan area, and Northern Indiana. And then
Okay.
I another photographer over near Chicago.
Okay. So it's Meg.
WilliamsonPhotography.com.
Okay. MegWilliamsonPhotography.com. All
Yeah.
right, friend. Thank you so much for being here. And y'all, everybody else, besties, stop playing with yourself, stop playing with your business, and get your professional photos done. All right. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode and you have a real life bestie that you think it would resonate with, y'all, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that share button, because you know what? We are better together. Make sure you share the podcast, and I appreciate your reviews. I appreciate you giving me 5 stars more than you know. I'll talk to you next week.